If you've ever found yourself off the beaten path somewhere, holding your cell phone way up high, trying to get to higher ground, or inside your van, holding your cell phone up to that roof vent, trying to get a better signal, then this video's for you. Hi there, my name is Tim. My wife Shannon and I have spent the last 5+ years driving around North America in our self-converted Sprinter van here. And in that time, we've seen all different kinds of cell phone signals. And boy, do I wish I knew 5 years ago what I know today. Now, just a little over a month ago, this company, HiBoost, reached out to us and asked if we would be willing to review their cell phone signal booster. Now, maybe you've seen these things before. We've got one right there on the back of our van. Basically, what this thing does is it picks up the cell phone signal with that antenna and it boosts it inside the van for a much stronger signal. And the question you're probably asking is, does it work? And well, the short answer is yes. However, there's a little bit more to it than that, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. But first, I wasn't ready to do a full install on this thing right off the bat. I didn't want to go drilling new holes in the van and putting all the time in for a full install if I didn't even know if this thing was going to work. So about 3 weeks ago, we were camping up in the mountains by a mountain lake. We pulled off the highway with 1 bar of LTE, and by the time we got to our campsite, that 1 bar had changed to SOS. SOS is a thing on the iPhone. I'm not sure what it means, but it might as well say SOL because that's pretty much where you're at when you see it. But we plugged this thing in, temporary install, and within seconds we had 3 bars of LTE. And we were receiving emails, we were sending texts, and we got onto Google Maps and figured out where we were going next. So right there, I was sold. I went ahead and did the full install. However, like I said, there are a few things to keep in mind, but I'll get to that in a few minutes. First of all, I want to do an unboxing. I want to show you everything that's included in this box, how it all works together, and what you need to do to get it working on your van or RV. Keep in mind, this is not an installation video. I'm not going to show you every single thing you need to do to install it, just some of the finer points. So let's get to it and see what's in the box. All right, so I've taken everything out of the box. I've partially assembled a couple of things, but first I just want to say real quickly, I'm really impressed with the quality of printing. This manual, the paper, the clarity in printing, and also the English is written really well. A lot of times you get products from overseas and the manual just feels like a piece of garbage. This feels really good. Same thing with the printing on the box and the packaging inside the box. It just feels like a real first-class product, so that's a good sign. I've gone ahead and assembled part of it, like I said. This is where everything starts. So this is the antenna that goes on the outside of your van. It assembles to this 2-piece mast. I've only got one of the pieces here right now. I'm thinking this is going to be tall enough for us, but if you want, it is a 2-piece mast. This piece would go right in here, and it would extend this a little bit over 3 feet above the roof of your RV or van. Another piece that's pretty important is this little extension that goes on the bottom of the mast, and you'll notice this is where the cable comes out. You have to have this piece on there in order to make it all work. There is also a spring that you can put on here. I'm not sure if this is mandatory or not, but basically that gives you a little bit of spring in case you hit something when you're driving. Another key component is this mount. So this is what will mount to the ladder on the back of your RV or onto your roof rack or whatever, and that is how you attach the mast that holds your antenna. Another nice thing that comes with it is this little guy, which you can mount a little ways away from this guy on your roof rack or whatever, and this will snap in there and keep this thing from bouncing around like crazy when you're driving down the road with it laying sideways. So this is where everything starts. Then you take this cable outside of your van, you run it through a roof gland, where you've drilled a hole in your roof or the side of your van, depending on what you're doing. You could come up and go inside your van like that. This is what you would put a bunch of sealant on and make sure you don't have any leaks after you have the wire going through it. That's how you get inside your van. And then there's a good length of wire here. I'm not sure how long it is. Maybe I'll add it in post and you can see a number here. I'm going to guess it's probably about 20 feet long. But this goes from this cable, from the antenna, all the way down inside to where the heart of this entire product is. This is your signal booster. So you would come in on this side with this cable, which is coming from the antenna, and you would come out of that side and you would go to your indoor antenna. And again, I'm guessing maybe about 10 feet of cable here. This is what broadcasts your cell signal inside the van. There's two ways to power this. One is with a 12-volt plug. This fits into like a standard cigarette lighter receptacle, and then the other end plugs into the booster. Or you can go with 120 volts AC with a regular wall outlet. This is the one we're going to use for ours. In addition to all of this, you have a little self-adhesive pad that will stick on the bottom of this in case you want to set this somewhere semi-permanently. This will keep your indoor antenna from bouncing around. In addition to all of that, we have mounting hardware, we have cable ties, we have self-adhesive strips, we have hook and loop fasteners. This is also known as Velcro, and assorted nuts and bolts and pieces of hardware. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and climb up on the van and start installing this. Okay, I've got the thing mounted up here on the roof. I wanted to show you this thing in action just because of this clip. This I touched on a minute ago during the unboxing. This unit is very similar to an earlier model. This one here, though, is called the RV 3.0 Max, and that's because of this mounting here. And the cool thing is you just pop this knob out and you can put it in this clip, and it is stowed for travel, and the clip keeps it from bouncing around while you're heading down the road. And then when you get to your destination, pop it out of the clip, pull the knob again, and boom, you are ready for some cell service. Now, before you go mounting your unit in a permanent location, you want to do some testing first. When we did ours, we kind of just had it loose on the table here. The booster unit was just sitting here with a bunch of cable, the antenna. The reason for that is you want to find the best location for the indoor antenna. It needs to have enough distance forward and backwards and up and down between this antenna and the one outside. Otherwise, you get self-oscillation going and you can degrade your signal. So once we had found a suitable location, we got busy doing our full install. Once that mounting plate was completed, it was really simple just to attach it to the wall using self-tapping wood screws. And then I ran the cable. The cable comes through the back of the van, along the ceiling, and then it goes into our overhead cabinets, and then it comes down the wall right here, and it goes through some of these clips. Now, these are very similar to the white clips that came with the unit itself, but there weren't enough of those in the package for the way I did the cable. And also, I like black better in our van, so that's why I chose black. Anyway, then the cable goes behind our foot locker, and it comes up over here, and it goes into the outdoor side of the booster unit. And as you can see, I already have the indoor antenna connected to the indoor side. Next, all I have to do is plug in the power, both to the wall outlet and to the unit itself. And then I wait for 3 solid blue LEDs like that, which indicates that the unit is working properly. So now we have several options for where to put the indoor antenna. Number one is just loose on the table here, anywhere that it's close to the phone. Keep in mind, when you have an extremely weak cell phone signal, the closer your phone is to this indoor antenna, the stronger your signal is going to be. There have been times that we have literally been this close to it just trying to get a signal over the past month. However, when you have a bit stronger signal and this is in the way, this has a magnetic base, and so I picked up some of these construction tie plates. These are steel. You can find them in the joist hanger section of your hardware store. I just painted it black, mounted it to the wall, and there you go. That thing's mounted and it's out of the way. And if we ever get tired of it being here, I bought another one. I painted it black as well, and it is right here on the underside of our overhead cabinet, so I can just run the cord up the wall, and this thing will be out of sight, out of mind. Okay, that's it. We've got it installed. Obviously, we were impressed enough with it to go ahead with a full install. And I think I would recommend this to you. However, there are a couple of things you might want to keep in mind if you're considering picking up one of these for yourself. So number one, while this thing is pretty amazing, it's not magic. It's not going to make a cell phone signal for you out of nothing. It does need at least a weak cell phone signal, so it has something to boost. And number two is bars of service. When you're looking at the bars on your phone to see how strong your signal is, that's a very arbitrary reading. It's just telling you whether you have a relatively weak or a relatively strong signal, but there's no real hard data there that you're seeing. And another thing about bars of service, you may be somewhere and you have 2 bars of LTE, let's say, and you're having pretty good luck being able to do what you want to do on your phone. You come back a couple days later, you have 2 bars of LTE, and you can't do a thing with it. So just keep in mind, those bars are pretty arbitrary. However, there are a couple of kinds of data that are not arbitrary, and one of those is an internet speed test, and the other one is an actual measure of your cell phone signal strength. So the first thing I'm going to show you is a speed test. Currently, I have this thing turned off, so I'm just in this little county park with a fairly dismal cell phone signal. I'm going to share my screen with you. You should see it right here. As you can see, I've got 2 bars of LTE, which is very arbitrary. But I'm on my internet browser. I'm doing a Google search for speed test, and so I've already got speed test in my search bar, and you can see Google has already come up with some suggestions for that. I'm not going to tap on any of those suggestions because I want to use the Google speed test itself. So I'm going to hit go, and this is the Google speed test itself. So I'm going to go ahead and run this speed test. The reason I want to use Google is because it not only tests download, but it also tests upload. And some of the other apps, some of the websites do that, but not all of them. So I've always been really happy with Google. Okay, so I have about a 12.1 megabit per second download speed, which is, for this park, that's not horrible, but it's not very good either. And then I have 1.23 upload, which that's pretty dismal right there. So now I'm going to turn this thing on, and let me just say I'm going to do some things. I'm going to dial it in. This may be kind of confusing, so I'm not going to go too deep into what exactly I'm doing. I think I might do a separate video entirely devoted to dialing this thing in. But the first thing I want to show you is there's a bunch of apps that'll measure signal strength for you, and the manufacturer of this HiBoost unit actually has an app, and it is called Signal Supervisor. So I'm going to launch that right now, and you should see that on my screen. The first thing you see is this welcome screen. I'm going to tap onto my unit. It's going to prompt me to keep this device within 20 feet to maintain connection, so that's okay. And now this is the screen you see with these 4 different gauges. Now this can be kind of confusing because if you look at LTE 700, it says I have a super connection, which this is anything but super. But let me tell you, what I'm going to do is right above that, you see RF params, and over to the right, there's a little button. I'm going to turn off the bands that I am not currently using on this phone. So I'm not using that super band, unfortunately. So I'm going to turn that off. And it's going to tell me this is offline. So that's good. Now I'm going to turn off Cell 800 because I'm not using that band either. And I'm also going to turn off PCS 1900 because I'm not using that band. So there we go. It turns out I'm using AWS 2100. So now that I've turned off all of those others and only AS 2100 is on the app, that means the booster is now devoting all of its power to that band rather than the other three, which my phone isn't even using. So now let's go back here. We're going to do another internet speed test. And I'm going to hit the X to get out of that, and I'm going to run speed test. And this is a relatively weak signal here, so that's why I'm holding the phone right close to the broadcast antenna like I told you earlier. But look at that, 30.3 download and 17.7 upload. So that's a dramatic improvement over 12.1 download and 1.23 upload. So just be aware, if you use this thing straight out of the box, it should be helpful. But if you take some time to dig in and really learn more about it, you can make some adjustments that can really make a dramatic improvement. So like I said, I think I'm going to make another video devoted entirely to making those adjustments. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at this. So one final thought. Earlier in this video, I mentioned if I only knew 5 years ago what I know now. 5 years ago, we had a unit very similar to this. It was from a different manufacturer. We had it for about 30 days, and it worked a little bit, but it didn't seem like it was enough of an improvement for us to be worth the money we paid. And so we returned it and got our money back. And about 3 days later, we were at a campground with a kind of weak cell signal, and we put our blinds up when it got dark, and boom, nothing. We completely lost our cell signal. And that's when I realized the one thing I should have tested with that unit was what happens when you put your blinds up. Because remember, when you're going directly to a cell phone, the cell signal's coming in through the window. But when you're using a unit like this, it shouldn't matter if you put your blinds up or not, because your cell signal is hitting the antenna on the outside of your rig and then coming inside. So if you pick one of these up and you're kind of on the fence as to whether or not you want to keep it or not, do that test, because that might make a difference for you. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, give it a thumbs up. And also, we have this unit linked in the description below. And if you purchase it through that link, we will earn a small commission at no extra cost to you. And it's small commissions like that that help us keep this channel going. So thank you so much for watching again. We really appreciate it, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.